Most people fall in love with Hua Hin within a few days. I did too, and I've been coming back here for years now, spending extended time, seeing it in different seasons, different stages of life. It feels easy, calm, and affordable, like you've finally found a place where life just slows down. But staying here longer is different. Over time, the picture I had in my head started to change, not in a dramatic way. Hua Hin isn't a disappointment, but it's also not exactly what people think it is. Some things turned out better than I expected, some things quietly started to frustrate me, and a few things I didn't see coming at all. So if you're thinking about retiring here, or even just spending more serious time here, this is what Hua Hin actually feels like once you get past the honeymoon phase. Not the travel version, not the first impression, the long term reality of being here. There's a reason Hua Hin keeps coming up when people start looking at retirement in Thailand. Bangkok feels exciting but overwhelming. Chiang Mai has culture but no sea. Phuket and Pattaya are livable but not for everyone long term. And then there's Hua Hin. It sits right in the middle, small enough to feel manageable, developed enough to stay comfortable. On paper, it ticks almost every box. You're about 3 hours from Bangkok, so you're still connected to the main airport and major hospitals. You've got long beaches, golf courses, and mountains just inland. There's a strong expat presence, but it's not a party scene. And that balance is what draws people in. The idea of a slower life without giving up too much convenience. Morning coffee by the sea, fresh markets, simple routines, a place where things feel easy. You can eat local food for a few dollars or sit in a cafe that just feels like back home. You've got hospitals, shopping malls, and just enough infrastructure to make daily life comfortable. For a lot of retirees, that's the goal. Not excitement, not isolation, something in between. But here's the thing, that balance looks perfect at the start. The question is, what's it actually feel like once you're living it every day? Let's start with what's genuinely good, because there are real reasons people come here and stay. And if Hua Hin fits your rhythm, it can give you a very comfortable life. The day starts early here. By 6 in the morning, it's already bright. People are out walking the beach, food stalls are setting up, everything feels calm and predictable. If you like slow mornings, this place rewards you for it. There's no rush, no pressure to be anywhere. And that alone is a big shift for a lot of people. One thing that stands out pretty quickly is how safe it feels. You don't really see much petty crime. You can walk around at night without thinking twice. And over time, you start recognizing faces. People at the same cafes, the same food stalls. It's not a big city feeling. It's more familiar. Healthcare is another major plus, and honestly one of the reasons a lot of retirees feel comfortable settling here. You've got private hospitals like Bangkok Hospital, Hua Hin, and Sao Paulo. You can see a doctor quickly, get tests done the same day, and it doesn't come with the kind of bills you'd expect back home. A basic consultation might be the price of a meal in the West. Dental work is significantly cheaper. Even more serious checkups are manageable. It removes a lot of the background stress. Day-to-day life is also just easy. Thailand is built around convenience. Laundry services are everywhere. Food is always available. Running small errands doesn't feel like a chore. And a lot of people end up eating more out than they expected because it's affordable and it's simple. You can cook at home if you want, but you don't have to. There's also a social side here, but it's low key. Golf groups in the mornings, markets in the evenings, a few regular bars with live music. Casual meetups that happen naturally. It's not loud or overwhelming, but if you want interaction, it's there. And if you don't, you can keep to yourself. Another thing I didn't expect at first is how blended everything feels. It's not separated into expat areas and local areas in the same way some places are. You'll have Thai families and foreigners living in the same developments. You'll see the same mix in cafes, markets, and restaurants. You're not living in a bubble, you're part of everyday life here. And then there's housing, which is one of the biggest draws. For what you pay, you can get a level of space and comfort that's hard to match back home. A modern condo near the beach, a house with a bit of outdoor space, even pool villas depending on your budget. If you come from somewhere like the UK, Australia, or parts of the US, the difference is noticeable. Your money stretches further. But more than anything, what stands out after a while is the overall quality of life. It's not just about cost, it's about how your day feels. You wake up and things are simple. You're not dealing with constant stress, noise, or pressure. And for a lot of people, that's the reason they stay. But this is also where expectations can start to drift a bit, especially when it comes to money. Because while Hua Hin is affordable, it's not quite as cheap as people imagine. Cost of living is usually the reason people start looking at Thailand in the first place, but it's also where expectations get a bit distorted. Because Hua Hin is affordable, but it's not as cheap as a lot of people think. Let's talk real numbers. If you rent a comfortable condo, somewhere around the 20,000 baht range, that's a good baseline for most retirees. Add utilities, electric, water, internet, and you're probably around another 3,000 to 4,000 baht, depending on how much you use the air conditioning. Food is where things can vary a lot. If you eat mostly Thai meals, you can keep your costs very low. But once you start mixing in Western foods, coffees, wine, imported groceries, that number climbs quickly. For most people, a realistic monthly spend on food sits somewhere between 12,000 and 15,000 baht. Then you got transport, small expenses, day-to-day things, call it another 4,000 to 5,000 baht. So all in, you're looking at roughly about 50,000 baht a month. Not luxury, but a good, easy lifestyle. Now if you start upgrading things, this is where it changes. A newer condo, a house with a pool, regular Western meals, golf a couple of times a week, drinks, social life, small trips, that number can easily double. You're now looking at 100,000 baht. And at that level, you're not just living, you're living very well. One thing that catches people off guard is imported goods. Anything that comes from abroad, cheese, wine, olive oil, cold cuts of meat, it all adds up fast. You can live cheaply here, but if you try to fully replicate a Western lifestyle, your costs move closer to Western levels. On the flip side, local food is still incredible value. You can eat fresh, well-cooked Thai meals every day for just a few dollars. And honestly, a lot of people end up preferring that over time. There are also a few costs people don't always factor in at the start. Health insurance, visa fees, trips back home, occasional bigger expenses like dental work or replacing electronics. They're not deal breakers, but they're part of the full picture. But here's the part that matters more than the numbers. It's not just about how much you spend, it's what your money gives you. Because at a similar monthly cost to a small apartment back home, you might have more space, better weather, and a much easier daily routine. You're not just saving money, you're changing how your life feels. But this is also the point where some of the trade-offs start to show up. Because while life here is easy in many ways, there are a few things that catch people out once they've been here a bit longer. Now for the parts that don't always show up in the videos or the property listings. None of these things are deal breakers, but they do matter, especially once you've been here a while. The first one is transport. Hua Hin looks small on a map, but it doesn't feel small when you're living here. Everything is spread out. The beach area, shopping, housing developments, they're all in different pockets. And public transport is very limited. There are song towers running along certain routes, but they're not something you can rely on day to day. So realistically, you need your own transport. Most people either drive a car or use a motorbike, and that's fine until you hit things like heavy rain, night driving, or just not feeling like going out. Grab works, but it's not as cheap or as available as in other bigger cities. So over time, you realise how much your daily life depends on being mobile. The second thing is distance. On paper, being a few hours from Bangkok sounds convenient. In reality, it's just far enough to become a bit of a chore. If you need something specific, immigration, specialist healthcare, certain shopping, you're looking at a full day trip. The journey itself isn't difficult, it's just repetitive, and after a few times you start thinking twice before making the trip. Then there's the quietness. This is one of those things that sounds perfect at the start, and for many people it is, but for others it slowly becomes a limitation. Evenings are calm, social options exist, but they're fairly limited. So if you're someone who enjoys variety, energy, or a busy social life, you might start to feel that after a few months. Infrastructure is another one. Most of the time everything works fine, but when it doesn't, you notice it. Power cuts happen occasionally, some roads flood during heavy rain. Things don't always get fixed quickly. It's not constant, but it's part of living here. And then there are the smaller lifestyle frustrations. Things like finding specific products, certain medications not being available locally, services that feel a bit inconsistent depending on who you deal with. English is widely spoken in shops and restaurants, but when it comes to repairs, paperwork, or local services, you sometimes hit communication gaps. Nothing major, just friction. And this is really the key point. None of these things are big on their own, but over time they add up. There's the trade-off. You get the calm, you get the space, but you give up a bit of convenience. And then there's one area where the trade-off becomes very clear, and that's the paperwork. Thailand is welcoming, but the system isn't always simple. If you're here long term, you'll likely be on a retirement visa. On paper, it's straightforward. You either keep a certain amount of money in a Thai bank or show a monthly income. That part is clear. It's the process around it that takes getting used to. Every year you go through the renewal. Bank letters, photocopies, passport pages, proof of where you live. Sometimes photos of your home, occasionally extra documents depending on the office. It's not difficult, it's just repetitive. And then there's the 90-day reporting every 3 months. You confirm your address again. Sometimes you can do it online, sometimes the system doesn't work and you have to go in person. Again, simple, but it never really goes away. Opening a bank account can depend on the day, the branch, or even the person you speak to. Some places are easy, others ask for extra documents you weren't expecting. Same with things like insurance, driving license, or even setting up certain services. Each step makes sense on its own, but together it creates this low-level background feeling of admin. And that's the best way to describe it. It's not stressful, it's just always there. Most people adapt. You figure out which office is easier, which day to go, what documents they usually ask for. Some people use an agent to handle it all for a small fee, And once you've done it once or twice, it becomes routine. But it's important to understand this part before you move, because the relaxed lifestyle you see day to day doesn't really apply to immigration. And outside of paperwork, there's another layer people don't always think about: the small everyday details that only show up once you've been here for a while. The kind of details you don't really think about when you're planning a move, but end up shaping your daily life once you're here. Take pets, for example. A lot of people bring dogs or cats with them. And while Thailand is genuinely very animal friendly, the setup isn't always ideal. Dog parks are rare, some condos don't allow pets, walking during the day can be difficult because of the heat, so your routine shifts: early mornings, late evenings. It's manageable, but it's something you have to adapt to. And the heat itself is a big factor that most people don't expect. Hua Hin is hot for most of the year, not just warm, constantly hot with humidity. By the middle of the day, especially in the hotter months, you feel it. So your routine changes naturally. You get things done early. You slow down in the afternoon. You come back out in the evening. Air conditioning becomes part of your daily life and one of your main expenses. Rainy season is another adjustment. It's not constant rain, it's short, heavy bursts. But when it rains, it really rains. Some roads flood, plans get delayed, and you learn pretty quickly to work around the weather instead of fighting it. Errands can also take a bit more effort than expected. You've got supermarkets, shopping malls, and the basics covered. But if you're looking for something specific, especially imported items, it's not always straightforward. Sometimes you find it, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you end up ordering it online and waiting a few days. And even then, deliveries can be unpredictable. A driver might call you in Thai, directions might get a bit confusing. Again, nothing major, just part of the rhythm here. Daily life also shifts in a way that's hard to explain until you experience it. Mornings feel active, midday slows right down, evenings come back to life again. You stop trying to push through the day the way you might have back home. You start working with it instead. And then there's the social life. It exists, but it's different. There's no fixed weekend feeling. People create their own routines. Golf days, market days, regular dinner with the same group. Time feels less structured, which can be freeing, or, if you're not careful, a bit directionless. And that's probably the biggest thing people don't expect. Hua Hin gives you space, but it doesn't give you structure. That part is up to you. If you build a routine, stay active, and stay curious, it can be a great lifestyle. But if you don't, days can start to blur together. And that's where things start to shift. Because once you get past the daily routine, there are a few things that only really show up after a few months living here. Some subtle, some a bit bigger. And those are the ones that really change how you see Hua Hin. After about 6 months here, you start to realize something. Hua Hin isn't just one experience. It depends almost entirely on how you live your life. One of the first things that caught me off guard was how social life actually works here. When you arrive, it feels very connected. You see the same people in cafes, markets feel busy, there's a sense that there's a community. But over time, you notice it shifts. A lot of people aren't here all year. Some leave during the hotter months, others split their time between here and somewhere else. So social circles can feel temporary. You meet people, build a routine, and then suddenly they're gone for a while. It's not a bad thing, but it's different from a stable year-round community. Another thing I didn't expect was how important routines become. At the start, having complete freedom feels amazing. No schedule, no pressure. But after a few months, that freedom can turn into drift. Days blend together, you wake up, do a few things, and suddenly it's evening again. And the people who seem happiest here, they create structure. They play golf, they go to the gym, they volunteer, they build something into their week. Because Hua Hin gives you time, but it doesn't tell you how to use it. There's also a mindset shift that happens slowly. In the West, everything is about efficiency, getting things done quickly, staying productive. Here, that pressure fades. You start to notice how patient people are, how little urgency there is around small problems. And over time, you start to mirror that. Things that used to frustrate you just don't matter as much anymore. Another unexpected part is identity. Back home, a lot of your identity is tied to what you do, your job, your routine, your role. Here, that disappears. You're just you, and that can feel freeing or at times a bit empty until you rebuild that sense of purpose in a different way. The quiet here also changes meaning over time. At first, it feels peaceful. Then you realize how much space there actually is. Long stretches where nothing really happens. No noise, no urgency. And depending on your personality, that can feel calming or a little isolating. The weather surprised me as well. Not just the heat, but how it affects your energy. During the hottest months, everything slows down. You plan your day around avoiding the middle of the day, and once you accept that rhythm instead of fighting it, life becomes easier again. Another thing I noticed is how uneven development can feel. You can have fast internet, modern cafes, and great hospitals, but then run into something simple that just doesn't work the way you expect. It's not fully modern, not fully traditional, it's a mix. And over time, you stop expecting everything to line up perfectly. Not everyone struggles here, and not everyone thrives here. It really comes down to personality. Hua Hin suits people who enjoy a slower, more predictable life. If you like routine, if you're comfortable with quieter days, if you don't need constant stimulation, this place can feel very easy to live in. It's also ideal if you value simplicity over variety. You're not choosing between hundreds of options every day. You find your place, your cafe, your restaurant, your routine, and then stick with them. For a lot of people, that feels grounding. It also suits people who are fairly independent, because while things are comfortable here, they're not always perfectly convenient. You might need to drive, figure things out, adapt to small differences. So if you're flexible, patient, and not overly reliant on systems being perfect, you'll settle in much faster. People who tend to do well here have a realistic expectations about money. They're not trying to live a luxury lifestyle on a tight budget. They understand that while Hua Hin is affordable, it's not cheap in the way it's sometimes advertised. Couples often find it easier here. You've already got companionship built in. You create routines together. For singles, it can take a bit more effort. There are social circles, but they don't just happen automatically. You have to put yourself out there a little bit. Age isn't really the deciding factor. Mindset is. Some people in their 70s are out there exploring every week. Others in their 50s rarely leave their routine. Hua Hin rewards curiosity more than anything else. On the other side, there are people who might struggle here. If you need constant variety, energy, or nightlife, this place will probably feel too quiet after a while. If you rely heavily on Western systems, fast service, or everything working perfectly, You might find the small frustrations add up. If you need frequent access to a major city, that distance to Bangkok can become tiring. And if you're moving here hoping it will fix something, stress, boredom, loneliness, there's a chance the quiet here actually makes those things more noticeable. Because Hua Hin doesn't distract you, it gives you space, and that's really what it comes down to. Hua Hin isn't about excitement, it's about balance. If that's what you're looking for, it can be a very good fit. After spending more extended time here, I don't see Hua Hin as the perfect place, and I don't think it's supposed to be. It has its good days, its slow days, small frustrations, unexpected moments, but that's also what makes it feel real. What you get here isn't perfection, it's balance. Life moves at a different pace. Things don't always happen quickly. Plans don't always go exactly the way you expect. But in exchange, you get space. Space to think, space to breathe, space to live a little more deliberately. If you're considering retiring here, don't just look at the photos or the costs. Spend some time here. See how the rhythm feels. Because Hua Hin doesn't try to impress you. It just waits. And if it fits you, you'll know. If you enjoyed today's video, can you do me a massive favor and press the big red subscribe button? Really helps me and the channel out to help push these videos to people like yourselves who want to retire in Hua Hin and other areas around Thailand. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one, guys.